Have you ever seen an unusual thing in your life that looks totally from another planet? If you found something that breaks every history book rule, would you tell the world or keep it quiet? Well, today, we are looking at items that don't fit the normal timeline. Some people say these objects are proof of advanced ancient tech or even visitors from far away. We will talk about strange metal spheres, weird skulls, and maps that show things they shouldn't. So, get ready to see what happens when the truth is kept under lock and key. Number 15. The reliquary of the Kusan Emperor. So, imagine this. You find this gorgeous gilded copper box back in 1908, and everyone's first thought is, oh, a crown. But no, the Ceus casket is way more intense than that. We're talking about a 2nd century reliquary that supposedly held 3 actual bone fragments of the Buddha. Can you imagine? It's got this wild lid showing the Buddha on a lotus petal just soaking up worship. But here's the kicker. Science can't even touch those bones to prove they're real. Why? Because they got shipped off to Burma, where testing is strictly forbidden. It's like the ultimate trust me of history. The casket itself is chilling in the Peshawar Museum in Pakistan now, but the mystery of those fragments is basically locked away forever. It makes you wonder if we're even supposed to know what's really inside. Honestly, it's the perfect example of history being kept under total lock and key. Number 14. The radar-hidden Viking ship of Jelastad. So, get this. Archaeologists are basically using high-tech X-ray vision now. Back in early 2021, they found this massive 60-foot Viking ship buried in southeast Norway. And the crazy part is that it was completely invisible to the human eye. They had to use ground-penetrating radar to even know it was there. This thing is part of the Jelhogen Mound, which has been sitting there since the 6th century. But this specific ship burial looks like it's from the 8th century. It's huge, 15 feet wide, meaning whoever was buried in there was a total big deal, probably a legendary Viking leader. They've been painstakingly excavating it, which is a slow-motion process, but it's honestly wild that something that big was hiding right under our feet for over 1,000 years. It's like the Vikings left us a secret message that we only just got the technology to finally read. Number 13. The prehistoric Peruvian popcorn secret. I was literally just eating popcorn when I read this, and I had no clue we've been obsessed with this snack for 6,700 years. Archaeologists digging in Peru found these ancient corn cobs that are way older than anything we've seen before. Get this. These people were growing and grinding corn for flour before they even invented ceramic bowls. Like, how were they even serving this stuff? They found all the evidence, husks, tassels, the whole 9 yards, at sites like the Jaca Prieta Mound. It turns out that while Mexicans probably domesticated the crop first about 9,000 years ago, the Peruvians were the ones who really refined the process. It's kind of wild to think about ancient people sitting around without a single plate or bowl, just munching on what might be the world's first movie snack. It really breaks the normal timeline of how we think ancient civilizations lived and ate. Number 12. The ghostly planks of the Trojan horse. You know that story about the giant wooden horse that destroyed Troy? Everyone always said it was just a myth, right? Well, back in 2014, some Turkish archaeologists basically dropped a bomb on that theory. They were digging around Hisarlik and found these massive 50-foot fir beams and planks that were assembled in this super weird, unusual form. Now, usually, that kind of wood was only used for seafaring ships, but these fragments were found right inside the city walls on totally dry land. Carbon dating puts the wood at exactly 3,200 years old, which is precisely when Troy was burning to the ground. It isn't 100% proof yet, but the coincidence is just too juicy to ignore. It's like finding the smoking gun of the ancient world hidden under the dirt. If this really is the horse, it completely flips every history book rule we've ever been taught about the Trojan War. Number 11. The chilling inscription of Ceus Castle. Okay, this next one is straight out of a horror movie. In 2020, people finally got into a spiral staircase in Latvia that had been blocked off for centuries. Scratched into the wall was this 16th century graffiti with a house mark, basically a poor person's version of a coat of arms. Underneath it says, "If God is with us, nobody can stand against us." But here's the dark part. Historians think it was carved during a brutal siege by Ivan the Terrible in 1577. And guess what? Not a single person in that castle survived. So while someone was hiding on those stairs, praying and scratching that message into the stone, the worst was actually happening. It's such a raw, human moment frozen in time. Finding that inscription is like hearing a ghost story from someone who knew they were about to disappear. It's a haunting reminder of what happens when the truth stays buried. Number 10. The Bard's Secret High Society Pad. Can you imagine the legendary Shakespeare brewing his own ale? Honestly, that's the ultimate flex. In 2015, researchers stumbled upon the remains of his massive kitchen at New Place, and it turns out the guy was living like a straight-up king. We're talking a cold storage pit, a massive hearth, and get this, 20 rooms with 10 fireplaces. He bought the property in 1597, and it was the biggest house in Stratford-upon-Avon by far. But the highlight? A private brew house. He spent his last 19 years there, likely sipping his own beer while writing masterpieces. It's wild because we always picture him as this starving artist, but the ruins prove he was drowning in domestic luxuries and hosting massive parties in his art gallery. It just feels so much more real, knowing he had a kitchen designed for serious entertaining. Who knew the Bard was such a high society host? Number 9. The Birdwatcher's Royal Payday. So this birdwatcher is out minding his own business in Israel when, bam! He spots a 3,700-year-old Egyptian scarab seal just sitting in the dirt at Tel Dor. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. This isn't some cheap trinket. It's a high-value relic from the 13th dynasty. Even though the owner's name is too blurry to read, the inscription literally calls them the one over the treasury. Basically, some Egyptian 5IP, a total big-shot viceroy, either dropped it while visiting or it was traded as a high-end antique centuries later. It's almost hilarious that a professional team was working nearby, and this random guy with binoculars just hands them a royal treasure. It makes you wonder how many priceless artifacts are just waiting for some lucky person to trip over them. Imagine finding a piece of royal history while looking for a sparrow. Number 8. The sunken lies of La Union history has a way of exposing the worst lies, doesn't it? For years, people claimed the slave ship La Union was a total myth. Then, in 2020, marine archaeologists find a paddle wheel steamboat wreck off the coast of Mexico, and the dark truth comes bubbling up. This ship was part of a nasty underground ring, illegally shipping Mayan slaves to Cuba under the guise of workers. They forced people to sign away their rights to bypass the law. Truly disgusting stuff. The ship's fate was sealed when a boiler exploded, sending it to the bottom of the sea. It matches every single survivor's account perfectly. It's a heavy discovery, but it's so important because it proves the victims weren't lying about their trauma. Seeing the remains of that boiler is like finally getting justice for people who were silenced for over a century. History isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's just plain haunting. Number 7. The Scrap Paper Musical Masterpiece. Talk about a weird way to save paper. In Prague, a researcher named Dominique Gata was scrolling through digital manuscripts and found something that shouldn't exist. 13th century Parisian music hidden inside a book about farming from the 1430s. It turns out medieval bookmakers were the ultimate recyclers. They took old parchment from the Notre Dame school in Paris and just bound it into newer books as scrap. These are rare two-voice compositions that could totally rewrite what we know about music in Bohemia. Only 4 of these fragments even exist in Europe, so finding them tucked away in a library is like winning the lottery for music nerds. It's fascinating how a melody from 800 years ago survived only because someone wanted to save a buck on bookbinding materials. It makes you realize how much history is literally glued together by accident, waiting for someone to notice the hidden layers. It's like finding a lost Beatles tape inside a cookbook. Well, now let's move to number 6, the original draft of Noah's Ark. You've got to hear about this cuneiform tablet from Syria. It's basically the world's first dictionary, 4,500 years old, and it took decades to even figure out what it was saying. Archaeologists were scratching their heads because it's written in the oldest Semitic language ever found. They eventually had to use a Sumerian bilingual guide to crack the code. But here's where it gets spooky. Among the 15,000 tablets found in the Ebla archive, one of them describes a massive, world-ending flood. The details are almost a perfect match for the story of Noah's Ark. Same vibes, same description, thousands of years before the Bible was even a thing. It's like finding the original draft of history's most famous disaster. It makes you realize that these mythical events might have been very real, documented on clay long before we ever put pen to paper. Isn't that just absolutely mind-blowing? Number 5. The hoax carvings of Monserat. Check this out. Hikers on Monserat found these ancient stone carvings in 2016, and what does the scientific community do? They spent 6 months trying to prove it was a hoax. Like they actually thought these people went into the woods just to fake 1,300-year-old petroglyphs. It turns out they're totally real, and the only ones on the entire island. These glyphs look just like stuff found on St. Kitts, which hints at this secret cultural network we knew nothing about. But the sad part? Every time a new group like the Caribs or Arawaks took over, the old history got wiped. We've got these mysterious messages staring us in the face, and we can't even decipher what they say. It's like an ancient DM that's been left on read for 1,000 years. Why is the island's history so shrouded? It feels like someone deliberately erased the trail. Number 4. The Emperor's impossible rock suits. Imagine trying to wear rocks to a sword fight. Seriously, in 2013, researchers found these insane suits of armor made entirely of stone inside Emperor Qin Shi Huang's massive tomb. We're talking over 600 tiny limestone plates all stitched together with bronze wires to make the whole thing flexible. It's a total engineering masterpiece for being 2,200 years old, though it was likely just for show since there's zero battle damage on the pieces. It's heavy, impractical, and yet they found 87 suits almost immediately, with rumors of thousands more buried alongside the famous terracotta warriors. It's like the emperor wanted an indestructible ghostly army that looked terrifying but didn't actually have to move much. The sheer scale of this burial site is enough to give anyone chills, especially when you realize it was all hidden away just to flex on the afterlife. Talk about a legendary ancient status symbol that truly defies logic. Number 3. The 13th century power snack. Would you eat a whale just to prove you're rich? Because 13th century royals in Cornwall definitely did. Archaeologists digging near the kitchen of Launceston Castle in 2022 found 20 broken pieces of whale vertebrae and ribs. This wasn't some planned hunt, though. They likely scavenged a massive beached whale because whalers back then couldn't handle a beast that size. Eating whale meat was the ultimate power move, a status snack for the elite. At the time, the castle belonged to Richard, Earl of Cornwall, the brother of King Henry III, and literally one of the wealthiest men in all of Europe. Imagine the smell of that kitchen. It's a gross but fascinating peek into the extravagant, greasy feasts of the medieval 1%. It's discoveries like this that remind us that history isn't just about crowns and battles. It's about the bizarre and sometimes stomach-turning things people did just to flex their status. Absolute madness. Number 2. The secret VIPs hiding in a pub. You wouldn't believe what was hiding behind the wallpaper of a random English pub. During a 2021 renovation at the Star in Hoddesdon, workers found 5 incredible wall panels from the 1580s. These aren't just random doodles. They depict high-ranking Elizabethan VIPs, possibly even Queen Elizabeth herself. The inn was once owned by William Cecil, the Queen's literal right-hand man and ultimate confidant, so the connection is deep. It's super rare to find paintings this old just hanging out in a local bar. The building itself is a time capsule with roof beams dating back to the 1400s. Just think about it. While people were grabbing a pint, they were leaning against 500-year-old masterpieces commissioned by one of the most powerful men in English history. It's like the ultimate hidden-in-plain-sight secret, making you wonder if the Queen ever actually stopped by for a secret drink herself. This find is absolutely massive for local history. Number 1. The 2,000-year-old grab-and-go joint who knew Romans were basically obsessed with fast food? I'm losing it over the Thermopolium, literally a 2,000-year-old snack bar found in Pompeii. Forget microwaves. These street vendors were reheating batches of pre-cooked meals for locals who couldn't be bothered to cook at home. We're talking spicy wine and baked cheese being served up right off the counter. Archaeologists have uncovered 80 of these joints, but this specific one is so perfectly preserved by the volcanic lava that it's like the owner just stepped out for a second. They've even restored one so tourists can actually walk through and see where ancient people grabbed their lunch before Vesuvius went nuclear. It's wild because it proves that humans have been lazy about dinner since literally AD 79. It's not just history, it's a mirror to our own lives, which is honestly the weirdest part of the whole find. Delicious, but potentially deadly. And with this one, we have reached the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you find this informative. Don't go without giving us a like and subscribe.